Hi, it's great to be back. We're talking cross country again, getting ready for the Champs Cross Country Nationals that's going to be in San Diego in just a couple weeks. We got the Champs Cross Country Regionals coming up all around the country. It's an exciting time. Cross country's in full swing everywhere. We just had the NC2As. Carrie was there. We've got high school meets going on, and we got a couple former Foot Locker. And please bear with us if we keep changing names. We were Kinney at one time, we were Foot Locker, we were East Bay, and now we're Champs Sporting Goods is our sponsor, and that's Champs XC. But it's all the same. It's been 4 great decades, and we got a couple athletes who not only excelled there, but have had wonderful careers. So let me start with ladies first. Molly Huddle was with us back in 2001. Molly placed fourth, and that's when we were in Orlando. She was an All-American at Notre Dame, and she set the American record in 2014 for 5,000. 14:42:64, and then in the 2016 Olympics she set the American record at 10,000 at 30:13:70. So obviously a two-time Olympian. Molly, thanks for joining us. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to be here. Hi, everyone.
All right, great. Let's introduce Ben True. Ben followed Molly by just a year. He was at Foot Locker twice in 2002 and 2003. That's when we had made the move to San Diego. All-American at Dartmouth, four-time national champion on the road. She's been to the World Cross Country Championships. And in 2014, he ran 13:02:74 at the Peyton Jordan. That was the world leading mark at the time. And to show you that you can really extend that career, 7 years later, just last year, he ran 27:14:95. That was out here in Southern California. Ben, I was there. That was a magical race that night. We'll talk a little bit about that if we get a chance. But Ben, thank you so much. We'd like to welcome you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, happy to be here.
We'd like to talk about your current situation and your careers and all that, but maybe we could just relive for just a moment. Molly, first off, that was a great race. That was when we were in Florida. It was still flat as can be. Amber Trotter took that pace out unbelievably fast. What do you remember about that race?
I remember surprisingly a lot for how long ago it was because it was such an important time of my life. It was probably the biggest race I ran, the most important race I had run at that point. I think I was a senior that year, and I'd never run cross country until that season. And then suddenly there I was with the best woman in the country, and this was before we had like social media, or I didn't even really go onto websites and compare myself to anyone else or see descending order lists. So I was just like starstruck. Like I was surprised by how good these women were. So I didn't know where I should place myself. And I remember Amber went out really hard, so I was like, okay, I can't go with her. I was running with Erica Oldlog and Natasha Redder, who Natasha had beaten me a few weeks earlier. And I was like, if I could be top 3 today, that'd be great. I think I ended up 4th. But yeah, it was hard. They pushed me. It was, I had been undefeated up until then. And I was like, what's this pain I'm feeling? I'm not used to this. How do I race? So it was such a good lesson. And so great to talk to those ladies after the race too and compare notes and talk about, our goals and our hopes going forward as we were all going to college after that. So yeah, very memorable day for me.
That's an interesting point. We'll get back to that. Ben, let's just real quick. So you were there. We moved back to San Diego the following year. A lot different course, a lot more hilly. You had really good races. You're in the top 10 both years. What do you remember about those? Does either race stick out more than the other?
Yeah. I mean, I remember a lot of things. Growing up in Maine, kind of like what Molly was saying, I didn't really know what other people did for training, and that there was really this world of running outside of my local area. And I remember my junior year, the first year I went, Chris Zielinski was the big name there, and the Rocket was what he was being called. And I remember hearing before the race all these press announce that he's been running 100 miles a week. And I remember hearing that and going back to my hotel room and adding up my weekly mileage and getting low 20s. And I was like, how do you possibly run 100 miles a week? I was so over my head, but just having a lot of fun and just going out there and racing. And then my second year, I felt like I could come back. I think I upped my miles to maybe 30 miles a week after hearing about Chris Zielinski. and I really thought I could do well, and had no idea how fast the guys went out. They went out very quick that year compared to what I did. And I remember I just caught back up to the leaders at the top of that last big climb. But that's right when Matt Withrow decided to lay down his kick and start pulling away. And so I wasn't able to finish as high as I wanted to. I was too late in movement, and so that was one I always kicked myself for.
Well, you still got fifth place. That's pretty impressive. And that was Shadrach and Galen, well, along with Withrow in that race.
And Josh McDougall.
What's that?
Josh McDougall as well.
Yes. Molly, I think you brought up a good point. It is a great experience for those kids. For you, when you ran it, you're on your own for the first time. If you're not with a team, for the first time you aren't with a team, I should say. And yet you have to learn to really get yourself prepared, and it is an eye-opening experience for kids. So it is a wonderful experience as we go along, and people react differently. You're interesting. We're talking about Ben's race. The previous year, Galen didn't even finish. It affects kids in many different ways. And you both have had wonderful careers since then. I mean, we're talking about this. We don't have to mention specific, but we're talking about a couple decades of great careers that have gone on since then. And it all started with those races that are still going on today for kids to have that experience. So we're just delighted that Champs is continuing this so other kids can have that experience. I didn't mean to take over, Carrie. I know you're jumping to get in there. Hop in there.
No, I mean, I was just listening to both these athletes talk about, the people that they competed against. And, Ben, even you talking about running 20 miles a week. Well, I was just at the NCAAs where Chris Zielinski's athlete, Parker Valby, finished second, led most of the race. She's a 20-mile girl per week, and she also cross trains. It's just cool to hear how we're all kind of connected, continually throughout this sport. We have these names that we raced against when we were in high school at Foot Locker or whatever the name of it is, and they still continue on. Do you guys find that there's still this kind of thread throughout your career where you're like, oh yeah, I raced them in high school, then in college, and then as a pro?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think for me especially, it was the first time I really got to know runners from elsewhere, outside of New England. And I remember, forming great bonds. That's when I really got to know Lopez Lamong really well, was through my time at Foot Lockers, for example. And he's still out there racing, and, looking at Garrett Heath and all these other people that I race against who are still out there running. It's pretty remarkable, and you forget a lot of the names, and then you go back and you look at a result list and you're like, oh, they were there too. Wow. And it's really neat.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Molly? I mean, you're now an author. You have your book, How She Did It. You have written about all these athletes, but then again, you look at that book and you're like, oh, wait, maybe you didn't race against them at Foot Locker, but they were there before you. It just really is cool how it's just full circle all the time.
Yeah, definitely. If you ask a lot of not everyone makes it to Foot Locker who goes on to have a great career. It's not prerequisite. Shalane talks about how she missed the year, and it's sort of funny, but sort of a painful story that she tells, having to go watch. She turned out fine. So yeah, but if you ask a lot of the elite athletes about their Foot Locker experience, they remember it fondly, and they were there. They learned a lot. Usually it was a hard lesson or, a really constructive experience for them. So yeah, and the book was for Foot Locker aged Molly. It's very much for that demographic of, you're coming up, you want role models to look at, what are some lessons that at that age are going to be helpful for your running career going forwards. But yes, I do. I remember a lot of the athletes, we had Tim Moore and Steph Medea who were going to Notre Dame. And were going to be in my class. So I got to know them really well. Of course, I'm still friends with Stephanie today, and we were in each other, I was in her wedding, and you just end up having these parallel life experiences going all the way back to Foot Locker. So it's kind of funny.
You guys are both parents to these 1-year-olds, basically, these little babies, and not quite one, you, Molly, right? JoJo's not one yet.
A few months.
Months. But Ben, your little one is 1.
Yeah, he's quite a bit older than 1. Yeah, he's 16 months, I want to say.
Yeah. What's parenthood like? we know you guys can run fast. We know you're back running after babies. But it's definitely a whole new ball game, isn't it?
It is a whole new ball game. There's a lot of positives and a few less than positives. I think the biggest thing that my wife and I have been struggling with is, since he's been going to daycare, is staying healthy. The amount of typically our circle of people that we see is not that large, and we take very good care of ourselves, and so we rarely get sick throughout a year. But we basically only have been sick since Hakan has started going to daycare, and she missed out on World Championship Ironman Kona because of sickness. I missed out on New York City Marathon, and actually one other race before that, Cow Harbor, because of sickness. And so that's been the biggest struggle for us so far.
Yeah, but so worth it.
Yeah.
Molly, you just
Every high
had
school coach in
a
America
good half.
knows that. Yeah, I'm gonna say every high
Go
school
ahead,
coach
Jeff.
in America knows that the first week of October, your team's gonna get sick because everybody in school, public school, gets sick. That first month
Yeah.
we're back. You know, we're talking. A lot of high school kids. This is our audience. Obviously, we're trying to reach high school kids. You guys have had both amazing careers that have lasted literally for 20 years. How do you maintain that focus? High school kids always say, gosh, it's a long time from my sophomore to my junior year, my senior year, And here you guys have done it at the highest level possible for 20 years. So, Molly, how do you maintain that focus to be able to get out there to do that every day?
I think you just have to stay in the moment and stay sort of focused on the next goal ahead and not try and get too desperate about clinging. I feel like there's sort of a negative pressure that can come with distance running if you're like, well, I need to do X, Y, and Z goal by this date or by the time I'm this age, or else I'll be not successful, or I won't have a career that I wanted, or I won't have the even high school career that I wanted if I don't win X number of state titles. Thinking like that, I tried to just go with the punches and take every season as it came and just tried to get better. And there were setbacks, there were injuries, but I tried to just get back on my feet and just get a little better. Whenever I set a record, I was rarely aiming for the record. I was just like, let's race, let's see how good I am today. And so I kind of unlocked that early, that okay, that's the key, to kind of just step to the line and be curious and just push yourself and see where you end up. And I think, again, I was lucky that I didn't have social media or a lot of the internet to kind of get in my head. I kind of could be blissfully ignorant and just be like, I'm a good athlete. I don't know what anyone else is doing. And it worked out for me. But the kids today do have a lot more to deal with, a lot more pressure. But I think if you can learn that early, it serves you for the rest of your career. So yeah, I definitely advise that kind of reframing of things if you need to do that.
And I'll echo on that, as well as add two tidbits of information that other athletes gave me. One was Shalane Flanagan saying, you have to love the sport. And if you don't love the sport, you'll never be able to take it very far. And anytime you go, decades of running, there's going to be ebbs and flows when you're really enjoying it and really in love with the sport. And then when things aren't going well, and it's the last thing you ever want to do. It's a chore and a burden. And it's to allow yourself, when you're at the lows, to step back and allow yourself to relearn the love of the sport, of why you're doing it. So that may be stepping back from any intensity, stepping back from any pressure, stepping back from any races, and just going outside, going in the woods, going for easy runs to reignite that passion for running, because ultimately we're here because we love running fundamentally. And sometimes all that pressure of trying to perform makes it so that love gets tamped down and pressure builds up. And so taking setbacks every now and then to making sure that you actually are really loving the sport, that's how you have any longevity, and that's how you're able to get the most out of yourself when you're training. And then the other person was Nick Simmons. He always said that every year he picked one thing that he wanted to do to get better. And so for some time it was, do core every other day. Other times it might be to start stretching. And he knew himself well enough that he said, I have to go out and do everything, that wasn't sustainable, and that he would end up not doing things. But if he was to go and say, all right, my focus for these next 3 months is this one thing supplementary for my running, he knew that he could then do that and do that consistently. And so that you were able to get the benefit for it and improve. And then you take the next step of saying, all right, now I'm going to add this one extra thing that's going to help me get better. And reframing things like that, where everything is something that is attainable, and something that you can make as a routine so that you can continue it on, really helps in longevity of getting incrementally better every day. And then at the end, you're much, much, much better.
I love that.
That was as good a 5 minutes as I've ever heard. Gosh, that was awesome. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate you both taking the time, really to share with that. And I always want to encourage high school kids, you get a chance, you see a Molly Huddle or a Been True to meet, go up and shake a hand and say hello. It's the best thing about our sport. You said, Ben, you got to love the sport. Well, one of the best things is you can't go to a basketball game and go up to LeBron and say, hey, without having 6 other people jump in front of you. But you can go up and say hi to Molly Huddle and take a picture with Ben True anytime you want. And obviously wise advice to go along. So, hey, thanks so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. It's a wonderful time. Be thinking of us in second week of December with the champs. And any kids, if you're interested in running, you can still sign up for your regional. Go to champsxc.com and sign up and join it and be the next Molly Huddle or Ben True. So thanks so much, both of you. Appreciate it. Good night.